meet the candidates tonight. And I'm Carolyn Eaker, and I would ask that you all stand and join me in pledging allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You could stand just for one moment while Roger Jambal leads us in a quick prayer.
So thankful to see everybody standing for that. Nobody kneeling on their knees. Praise the Lord. Yeah, like she said, we kneel to pray. God bless each and everybody out here. I'll tell you what, this is a good crowd, and I know it's going to be a great evening. And so if you bow your heads. Lord God, we just thank you for all these good people here tonight, and help the candidates to say what they need to be saying, Lord. God bless each and every one of them. And we just thank you, God, for these people. And the blood of Jesus cover each and everybody in here. Help them financially, spiritually, health-wise. Whatever their needs are, you know what they are, Lord. And when we go home tonight, we want you to help them and be back on the blood of Jesus, cover everybody going home so they'll be safe. And God bless America and keep it safe, and our president and everybody else that is trying to do what's right for this country. And we give you all the praise in Jesus' blessed name as we go. Say, amen.
Thank you. Good words. Thank you, Roger. Okay, before we get started, I wanted you to know that this event is being brought to you courtesy of the Greene County Tea Party, and I'm going to take about 90 seconds and give you an advertisement, so just bear with me. The Tea Party core values are to protect and defend the Constitution and the rule of law. We have limited power of government, personal and government responsibility and accountability, and the free market system. Our activities in the Tea Party are educational in nature, and we have regular meetings such as we had a panel discussion on the opioid epidemic headed by Attorney General DeWine. We had a security man there, a former addict, a person who ran a rehab center. It was a really powerful, powerful panel discussion. We have Constitution Boot Camp. We had Constitution and its roots in religion. We have local elected officials come and address us, and the next one, I don't know if I'm letting the cat out of the bag, we're going to invite Representative Dean in the spring to come and address our public meeting. We had the school issues. We were at Beaver Creek, and we worked with their board of education. Superintendent, and we have festival outreach, and we have this event, Meet Candidates, and I looked back at my records, and I think we go back to 2011 when we started this with the Fairborn Liberty Group. So that's what we're all about. Our president is Denny Crouch. The vice president is Mark Bryan. We have Dave Crippen back by the door, Marlene Johnson, and myself. The three of us are members at large. And if you're interested in what we're up to next, sign up with your email address, and we'll put you on our bi-weekly newsletter list. Go to our website or friend us on Facebook. So that's that. Thank you very much for that. Okay, overview for this evening. We have 4 races. 2 of them are uncontested. The mayoral race and the Board of Education, and we're offered those folks an opportunity to speak for 3 minutes following the contested races. The candidates for City Council and Township Trustee are contested races. We have 7 individuals running for council and 7 individuals running for 2 positions on council. Tough race. And 3 candidates running for 2 positions on the Township Trustee, and we're going to give each of them 5 minutes, and our timers will give them a 60-second warning and a 30-second warning, and then the hook comes out. We will take a few minutes after after the council candidates speak, and if you have any questions that you would like to ask, please write them legibly on a card and pass them to Dave. And Dave, and if you'll raise your hand, Dave will, he'll bring you a card that you can put your question on. So just do that sometime while, before the end of their speeches. So we'll take, 2 or 3 questions at the end. And then following the candidate presentations, we will have short pros and cons on the 2 issues, because I know everybody is asking about the issues, especially issue 2. So, Roger, would you please do the honors of picking the first person who's going to speak? No, your name is not. Did you prepare 5 minutes? Dr. Eric Winston. Dr. Winston is unable to attend tonight, and he sent me a letter to read on his behalf. I am Eric Winston, and I am asking Xenians to return me to the City Council, where I once served for 14 years. I have been in Xenia for 38 wonderful years. I served at Wilberforce University for 25 years and was a consultant at Central State for 3 years after that. I have served the community as chairman of the board for the Xenia Chamber of Commerce, president of the Xenia Rotary Club, and president of the Xenia City Council. When I am re-elected, I will call for joint meetings between the city, the chamber, and the school board to address the issues we face as a community. Our community's population is stagnant, we need more jobs, paying a living wage, and we must improve our cultural and recreational offerings. Addressing these issues requires a concentrated effort by these 3 most significant stakeholders in the city. If the 3 do not collaborate, we will not make progress. Having been afforded the opportunity to travel, I see where and how other communities have addressed their issues. Perhaps we can take some lessons from them. I ask for your vote to help me achieve that goal. Dr. Eric Wilson. Dennis Probst.
Left the mic on first.
Second.
Steve first. Well, thank you guys very much for this time this evening. Like she said, my name is Dennis Probst. I'm candidate for Xenia City Council. I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. I grew up in a small town outside of Cincinnati called Corrine Township. It's a small township, population of about 58,000 people. Somebody got that? The high school I went to was rather small as well, Corrine High School. If anybody knows anything about high school football, about 2,500 people went to that school. So when I moved to Xenia, it was a bit of a culture shock, small town, but I loved it. I love Xenia. I love the small town feel of it. And me and my family, when we moved here 19 years ago, we loved everything about it. And that's why we moved to Xenia. We love this small town feel. And we loved everything about Xenia. And so we looked for ways to serve Xenia. And that's why I was elected to council several years ago, and I served on city council. I was council president. But when I became a councilman, became council president, it's a tough job. It's a very, very tough job, as everybody who has ever been elected to public office will quickly tell you that there is a lot about that job that you do not know, you do not realize. There's a lot that you have to learn on the fly. It's very, very easy looking out from the outside saying that you want to do all these great, wonderful things. You want to create jobs. You want to do all these wonderful things, but you have to realize that there are 6 council members, a mayor, and an administration that you have to work with. And if you can't do that as a council member, if you can't work with those 6 other council members, the mayor, and the administration, nothing is going to get done in the city. And that's a big problem that's going on right now. And I've always been able to work well with everybody on council. And that's what I consider one of my big strong points, is my ability to get along with people. You know, like I said, I'm from Cincinnati. I'm a veteran of the Army. I've got a bachelor's degree in environmental science from Wright State University. I went back to Wright State University and got my master's of public administration. That's like an MBA for local government. And it's taught me an immense amount about how government works, how government functions, and what it takes to do the job that I know I can do for the city of Xenia. What I do in my regular life is I'm the health commissioner of a neighboring county. And that comes with a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things that I do there. One of the positions I have, and one of the duties I have, is I chair the heroin coalition for the county. And I deal with a lot of those problems. You know, we've created a quick response task force in 2 of the local municipalities that, you know, create a multidisciplinary task force that goes out and visits individuals who have overdosed on heroin, people with from the faith-based community, from the treatment community, from law enforcement, from treatment and medical. And they visit these individuals and show them that the community cares. Thank you. And you know, these are things that ideals that we can incorporate here in Xenia to help address this very, very real problem here in Xenia. These are types of experiences that I have that I can bring to the community. You know, I'm running an organization that has a multi-million-dollar budget. You know, I've worked with multi-million-dollar budgets here in the city. You know, when you start looking at you know, people running small businesses, you don't realize how big of a budget the city of Xenia has. You know, you talk about running, thank you, you know, running small businesses, but you know, the city is not a small business; it's a rather large business. You know, we've got to do. Like I said, the key to getting things done here in Xenia is working together with council, working together with the other council members. I do that well. I've always done that, and I will do that when you elect me here on November 7th. Thank you. My name is Dennis Purvis.
Shaw. Philip Shaw.
I'll try to stay scripted here so I stay under these minutes here. Good evening, my name is Philip Shaw. I'd like to take a moment and thank our host this evening. I'm a proud Army veteran and have a devout conservative background. I've lived in the past 17 years in Xenia with my beautiful wife, Diana. I spent the last 29 years in the transportation industry. I left our meeting last night with one thought. It puzzled me all the way back to work as I worked a 12-hour shift up in Huber Heights. How am I going to compete with Levi's 10,000 signs? In all seriousness, I was thinking, what do I have to offer that the others don't have? I don't have a college degree. I don't own my own business. I've not been on the council before. And I don't have 60 years to live like Levi does. So it came to me. I'm a people person. I know how to manage people. I've been doing it so long and it's become second nature for me. To get the most out of a person, just like the city council tries to get the most out of a buck. You got to work with the people. I've been critical in saying that Xenia's growth has been stagnant for 40 years. By the way, Eric stole that from me last night. I also believe that we have not done enough to keep businesses, and we have failed in recruiting businesses to come to Xenia. In those 40 years, we have had a drive-in close, a theater close. We've had a skating rink close, a bowling alley close. We've had businesses, hotspots move from Dayton Avenue to Ledbetter to Xenia Town Square to North Progress to South Progress. We're running out of places to move. We need to bring something to do to Xenia. I hope one day I can say I spent my last dollar in Beaver Creek. Mr. Winston did bring up a great point last night. We need to work with the schools and the Chamber of Commerce to make Xenia grow. Let's face it, folks, without a strong school system, Xenia's growth is unlikely. I have two beautiful grandchildren, ages 6 months and 3 years old. I want them to be proud of the city that they grow up in. Communities such as ours are not immune to drugs. Hard drugs have made their way from big cities to rural America. These drugs will tear apart families and communities alike. Smaller towns and cities in various parts of this country have adopted ordinances that are in many cases stronger than the state laws that they are in. I believe Xenia could adopt these ordinances and supersede the ordinances and set the standard. Again, my name is Philip Shaw. I will stand for you. Vote for me on November 7th.
Dr. Edward Council.
Dr. Edward Council.
I'm probably the only candidate that has the same name as the job. If you ever see my name on it, it's not a fluke, and my family has been in the country for hundreds of years, so it's not like I changed my name to get this thing. I hope you will consider me when you make your vote coming up on November 7th. I've never run for office, and I started getting involved in this when I started going to city council meetings about 6 months ago, because things just didn't add up. And I've been living in this community for decades. I moved here in 1990. I was sent from Oak Ridge to manage a lot of the environmental work at Wright Pat, hundreds of millions of dollars. So I've dealt with large operations, multi-dimensional operations people galore. So I was sent here to start resolving problems from the get-go. Met my wife here, got married, and as I said, you know, this is probably the last place I'll ever live, but I've got 3 kids. We've all been through the Xenia schools. I've got 1 daughter left, and she's now just starting high school when I'm almost 60. So it's been a ride. So the reason I started getting involved in this was things just didn't start adding up. You know, we were in a community where it just seems like every year we're going backwards. You know, businesses are closing. We're losing movie theaters. We're losing every venue that we have for any entertainment. There are so many empty businesses. And I've worked all over the country and seen what happens when cities get hollowed out. And change has to be made, or it's going to get worse. With this city, we're also seeing finite amount of money. And instead of living within those venues and trying to make each and every buck last as far as it can go, it appears that we're just not doing a good enough job. Our roads just keep getting worse off, even though we had a tax increase not too long ago to take care of it. And then we start looking at, well, where is money? I've actually gone through the budget. I'm probably one of only a few people that have done it to see where is our money going. And it's being moved around left and right. You think you got roads when you came in here a couple of years ago with that tax increase? What you've really gotten was all the money put in the general finance fund, the capital improvement fund. So they're using that to buy everything from automobiles, toilet paper, cleaning supplies in City Hall. A less and less is being spent on roads, and the money that is being spent is to match grants with ODOT, so that it's not dealing with residential roads where you thought you might be getting. It's being dealt with Progress Drive. It's being dealt with the bike path, Bellbrook, other roads, because in order for us to be able to pay those, we have to take money out of where we thought it would be going. So what we're seeing also is a continued process where we're just hollowing out our downtown. YMCA has been allowed to leave. This building wants to be. We're going to be moving over some of these over to Reach. But instead of trying to maintain those city infrastructure activities here, we're actually giving money to those groups that are facilitating the move. So in all these cases, what we've got is problems, and they're just not being addressed, or they're being ignored, or whatever. And we need to start looking at ways of resolving these problems in order to start getting the city moving forward. We need to start having growth. If we don't have growth, we don't have a tax base we can pull from, and we're stuck with what the auditor, the Ohio auditor, is saying with us, is that we've got multiple financial stressors facing us. We're almost at the point where if we had a big problem, we could go under. We just wouldn't have the revenue to deal with it. So if we can be able to focus on those areas where we can be able to bring in white collar, more expensive type of paying jobs, our tax base will grow. We'll be able to have more money to do things. We'll be able to improve these things that we've got. But until we do that, we're going to be limited on what we're going to be able to accomplish. So hopefully, you will consider voting for me on November 7th to help resolve some of these, give support to the city, to be able to focus on those areas that we need to resolve. Thank you very much.
Levi Dean.
First off, I'd like to thank the Greene County Tea Party for putting together this event. It is a great opportunity for the citizens to come out and meet their local council candidates and township trustee and learn about the issues. So thank you for putting it together. My name is Levi Dean. I'm a third-generation Xenian. I was born and raised here. My dad was born and raised here. His dad was born and raised here. And I'm one of 10 children. My parents taught me from an early age the values of honesty, entrepreneurship, and hard work. They taught me these values through our family businesses, all 4 of which are located here in Xenia. If elected to City Council, I will bring these same values to city government. Here in an era of tight budgets and tough spending decisions, I believe we need new vision and new representation on city government. I am that person. I'm committed to representing you, the citizens of Xenia, and imposing tax rate increases, water and sewer rate increases, and poorly planned annexation attempts. I also would promote safer streets, improving our neighborhoods, and offering alternatives for new revenue sources. The most important thing, though, here that we need in Xenia is new jobs and businesses, and we shouldn't lose sight of that fact. For years, we've been promised change by politicians who have continued the same tax and spend policies which has driven Xenia's economy down, without actually looking into possible alternatives to operate the city budget. One way to reduce cost, which I believe it's owed by the elected officials to reduce cost and preserve the taxpayers' money, is shared services with other counties, like Greene County, townships, and other cities surrounding Xenia. Another way is by consolidating spending programs of similar nature and then reducing the bureaucratic overhead. Sadly, most politicians never ever look at these options, and if they do, they don't try very hard to enforce them. Another important issue to me is transparency. There's a program called Ohio Checkbook. You can look it up at ohiocheckbook.com. It is a great tool put on by the Treasurer's Office for taxpayers to ensure that their tax dollars are being spent on what they want them to be spent on. It is also provides tools for city leaders to improve efficiency in the city. I will fight to keep us in that program, as I believe it is important for the citizens of Xenia to see how their tax dollars are being spent. Excuse me. The most important thing I think we need here in Xenia is businesses and jobs. As I said, being a member of a family with 4 businesses all located here in Xenia, I know what it means to bring jobs, to create jobs, and to bring businesses. The first thing businesses need is low taxes, the second thing is less regulations, and the third is a ready workforce. As you can see, I am committed to lowering taxes and reducing regulations here in the city of Xenia. Now, the ready workforce, I believe that starts first at the family level. Unfortunately, government can't make a good family. But I believe through the schools that we can work together and set up meetings of the county, the township, and the city and the schools, and set up meetings to where we can learn from each other, help improve our relationships, and grow. I want to let you know that it would be my privilege serving you, the citizens of Xenia, as your next city councilman. And I believe I have the commitment and fiscal discipline necessary to serve you well. In closing, I hope that you'll vote for me on November 7th for Xenia City Council, and together we can make Xenia a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you.
Wesley Smith.
Wesley Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Great to see everybody. My name is Wesley Smith. I have a business here in town called Better Images. So a lot of people in the community, kids will see me at Walmart and they'll go, "Mom, Dad, that's the picture guy. He took my picture." And that's a good thing, hopefully, for a lot of those parents. But it is kind of awkward, but it is a lot of fun. And you know, my business has been very blessed because we have a dynamic community. And I'm actually here today, I'm very excited to talk about the city of Xenia because we have made some great progress in the last several years, and it's just because of the generosity of our voters. In 2011, 8 years ago on council, it wasn't good. We had closed the fire station. We had to lay off police and fire. We eliminated our leaf collection system. However, because of the 0.25% income tax, we've been able to reinstate all those programs. We've reopened the fire station. Actually, this year we added 3 new EMS fire people through a safety grant. And we've restored our police department to full complement. And I'm really proud of the improvements that we made at our local parks. Shawnee Park, we invested over $1 million in repairs to the gazebo. This year we introduced a free splash pad to the citizens of Xenia, something for the kids to do. There's a lot of complaints sometimes that there's nothing for little kids to do in Xenia, and that is one thing that we can do. But I also feel like a lot of times that boils down to the parent involvement, because we're not supposed to just entertain kids, we're supposed to educate kids. So one thing we can do is to be proactive as a council member, and we can support the amenities that we have here in our community. And I've always tried to be very positive and proactive when it comes to representing Xenia and working with our school system. We have 5 new elementary schools. There was an attempt to build a new high school and junior high. That failed. Let's move on. Let's continue to make Xenia a great community. Our city council, we actually have met with our school board. We've had regular meetings over the last couple of years. I'd like to see us this year work with our city manager and our police department to possibly add a DARE officer to our complement. And a DARE officer basically is that policeman that is in our school system. We have one at Xenia High School right now. We would like to add an additional one to possibly Warner. So that's something that we have to work with together with our school system to help pay for that, because police officers aren't free, we know that. One thing that we need to remember is we had started a street program in 2011. We know our streets are in bad shape. A lot of communities, the streets are bad. Xenia is not alone to that problem. You go through Huber Heights, you go through Kettering, they have street problems as well. We've had bad winters. The asphalt just doesn't seem like it holds up as well. However, over the last 7 years, I met with our finance department, we've invested $3.5 million into streets, and then we've improved over 100 roads. This year alone, Xenia will spend close to $2.5 million on street and safety improvements through our city and our downtown, and a lot of that is brought in through grant money, so we're appreciative of that. We have some new things coming to Xenia that I'm really happy. In 2018, Brandy Corp Development should be working on the start of Town Square, so we're hoping to bring some restaurant and retail to help vibrant and reinvest into downtown. We also are excited that in 2018, through a collaborative effort between our city, between Kettering Health Network, between the Greater Dayton YMCA and the Senior Citizen Program, we are going to unveil a REACH project. That's going to be a fantastic new YMCA, and it will be a wellness facility. It will also be partnered with Central State and Kettering Health Network. So we need that in our community because Beaver Creek doesn't have a Y, Bellbrook doesn't have a Y. We have a great senior sneakers program here at the Y, and we'd like to expand on that. And we're excited about what's coming to town with our REACH project. Thank you very much. So in closing, I'd just like to thank people. The 8 years that I've served on city council has been very humbling to both myself and my wife. We're very appreciative of that opportunity to serve. And I hope you'll remember me in November, because it's not just about being a Republican or a Democrat, it's about being a Xenian. And I'm really proud of our community. And I'd like to thank you very much for your time tonight. Thank you.
I was going to ask Roger to draw the last name, but I know who it is. Before we ask Billy to come up, would anybody like to write a question on a card? They can pass white cards around. There's one here, Anybody else? Three people, I see 3, 4. One there, one over here. One there, okay. One more. Dave, there's a lady in gray, and Denny. In the back. And our last candidate for City Council for Xenia is Billy Carrico. And then we'll have a question or two.
I'm not sure if I need this mic. Hello, everybody. My name is Billy Carrico. I was born and raised in Xenia. My family is all from Xenia. I have been involved in many small businesses within our city. I was raised by a small business in Xenia. My dad's had a business for 35 years. I know the trials and I know the tribulations that the small businesses go through in Xenia. I've been out on the streets and I've been talking to the citizens, the ones that are trying to run these small businesses. They're having many problems and many issues. I know what they're feeling because I've been there myself dealing with them. I believe that bringing jobs to this city is not only the most important thing, but it's the only way that we're going to survive as a city. We're not going to be Beaver Creek. We're not going to be a big city. Progress Drive is wonderful, but what about downtown? There's no structure. Everything is moving out. And I have been talking to the businesses downtown. There's no help. What I would like to see is a committee formed for small businesses. I have 2 years in marketing and organizational leadership. I used to work for Matrix, L'Oreal from New York. I traveled the country. I put together huge hair shows. I stood on stage in front of tens of thousands of people and I spoke and I educate and I taught. And I sold products. That was my main focus. I am a people person. I give 110% and I have passion. My passion is to get every door downtown filled with the business. There's no reason we can't. There's no reason at all. All this bike path, everything going on with the bike path, do you honestly see the bikers stopping and shopping and putting bags on their handlebars going on their way to Yellow Springs? I don't think so. That's a problem. That's a huge problem for us. Also, our youth. Our youth is very important to me. One of the projects that I'm working on right now, I've been involved, I used to be the head of the Wee Bucks cheerleading. Right out of high school, I was a cheerleader at Xenia High School. Right out of high school, I went in and I took over Wee Bucks. After that, I took over an all-star cheerleading squad. I took them to ESPN. I traveled them all over the country. After that, I went into hip-hop with my own daughters, who both graduated from Xenia High School. I traveled with them. I build organizations, I build them up, and then I turn them over to someone else, and I go and I start another organization. Right now, I'm the president of the Arsenal Select Baseball Team. We're a baseball team here in Xenia because there is no city-offered baseball for our children. There is nothing to be involved in our youth. They have to pay to play. That is another problem. I'd like to see scholarships within our community. There are large companies based out of this city. There are things we're spending money on that we do not have any reason to be spending money on, that these children could be benefiting from. You want a way to keep the kids off the street? Put them in a sport. Teach them integrity. Teach them leadership. Teach them what's important. They may not have that at home. I remember when I was a coach and advisor, half those kids came to practice just to feel loved, just to be with a family. We don't have that anymore in Xenia. The city needs to get more involved with our children. The drugs, yes, we can't solve all the problems, but we could help a lot of kids with scholarship programs. I can't even play at Westside Park. You want to know why? Because they won't take care of the grass. I see city workers parked alongside the road all the time, but they won't mow the grass at Westside Park for my ball team to play at. So we're paying YRC, we're collaborating with YRC, we're coming together with YRC. I am paying to play at YRC. You know how much money comes out of my pocket? A lot. You know why I do it? Because for the kids, because I love the kids. I will continue to do that. I will be starting the first annual Terry Tobey Memorial Baseball Tournament at YRC Memorial Day weekend 2018. That's one of the first things that I'm bringing to the city. There will be more. First Fridays, I brought that to Xenia. Most people don't know that. I coordinated it, I brought it together, I made it what it is today. When the city started getting involved, I walked away. You want to know why? Because they tried to stop us. They tried to stop doing certain things that we were doing. I walked away, I started another project. I handed it over to another business. There are so many cracks in the foundation of this city council. I hear, let's all work as a team. I can play on that team. That's funny because the council we have now does not work together as a team. There's cracks in that foundation. We're not a team. Compromise. A team is someone, when I have 30 hairdressers backstage getting my models ready for me to go on stage and be the star, you know what I do when I'm done? I bring all 30 out and I introduce every one of them by name because it took the whole entire back half of that room to bring me where I am today. Compromise, teamwork, leadership. Let's think about the kids. Let's bring businesses. Let's get a business committee started so that we can market these businesses. You can't bring a business to town then walk away. You can't spend 6 months trying to get your sign hung up so your customers can see where your business is at. That is a problem. When you open that door, you expect the city to be there for you. Not just a ribbon cutting and then bye. We need more. We need to back these businesses. We need to back these children, and we need to back our council. I'm not a yes sir, I'm not a yes ma'am. I am an independent thinker, and I work for the citizens. Thank you very much. My name is Billy Carrico. I hope you vote for me on November 7th.
Okay, Dave will collect the cards from this side, and I'll collect the cards from this side, and we'll take a 5-minute break. You'll have 1 minute to answer The first question deals with Central Michigan, my alma mater, Central State University. And the question is about annexation. Do you feel that it should or should not be annexed, and why? 1 minute. Start there.
That's a real good question, and the answer is it probably shouldn't. Looking at what the city was going to gain from it is very little in the short term, just a couple $100,000 in taxes. And what's going to happen is we're going to have to be responsible for the roads, aspects about their water. So we actually stand to lose a fair amount of money. If it was such a great idea, why was they're not, if we were going to get the better end of the deal, why didn't Central State start pushing back? So they're going to come out with us taking over responsibility of the roads. We're going to have to pump in a lot of money. And then in the short term, we might make a little bit, but in the long term, we're going to probably take a bloodbath. So, thank you.
And if you all please speak into the microphone because we are recording.
I'm against it. Like he said, I think it's, at best, we would break even as far as a revenue point. Central State really wants it as far as the leadership. Their staff and faculty are against it because now they have to pay more money in taxes. We would have to provide services, which I know we already somewhat provide a few services, but city, water, and sewer we'd have to provide, and we'd get a little bit back in taxes. I don't see how that would make up the cost. I've talked to a lot of people, the faculty and staff. They're all against it. Most citizens that I've talked to are against it. I'm against it. I say if we're going to annex something, we should move towards Beaver Creek, which is where the county's growing. We've got Killcare out that way and the airport. The airport is a real asset. If we're going to annex, we need to move towards the money and towards the people.
Yes, I actually agree with Levi on that. Moving east is not where we want to go with the cost and the money that is there right now. Annexing more towards Beaver Creek would be where the money's at right now. It would help the city grow. And that's basically how I feel on that.
I gotta agree with my boys. I'm against it. I think Central State has been fine for all these years. I know that there were lots of bills that were not paid by Central State that had to be wrote off within our city. I don't see any way, shape, or form how this is gonna help our community at all. I do believe with Levi, we need to go out more towards Beaver Creek, Killcare. There's things that need to be done within our township. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Our city leaders, our city manager, our finance department, they've met with Central State University. Central State has reached out to us. They want annexation, and I support our city leaders in the decision to embrace our neighbors. Central State is an educational facility and an asset in our community. Crunching the numbers, and of course it is speculation because it's not a done deal, but it does look like the city would come out about 200,000 to 300,000 ahead if that annexation would happen. However, it's still on the table. It's not a done deal. There's some steps that have to be approved first, but they are planning expansions in the near future at Central State University. So those jobs of the creation of a newer campus facility would actually be income that would be brought into our city. So I welcome the leadership of Central State for reaching out to us and offering to join in Xenia's success. Thank you.
Annexation is a two-way street, and you got to remember that. So, Central State did reach out to the city, and you talked about the airport, Killcare. Neither of them are reaching out to the city. You look at Central State and its ability to develop a workforce and to develop the workforce needs of any industry that may move into city. And that's an asset that we can market to potential industries that want to come into the city. Say, look, we have an educational institution in our city that can train a competent workforce to meet your needs. So there is a lot of positive benefits that can come from it. So it is a two-way street, so you got to remember that as well.
And the other question is, if elected to city council, what would you like to do to try to strengthen the economy of Xenia? Let's start on this end.
Well, hopefully I'll be reelected with your support. Xenia is always looking for new revenue sources. One thing we're excited about is the development happening out on Progress Drive with the hotel. We were a little bit criticized last night for abatements given. However, those abatements were not given to Hampton Inn. That abatement was actually given to Tashi Corporation, which is a small Ohio-based company. That abatement actually will be trade-off for additional property taxes, a hotel tax, which we have in our city that helps fund items that we have, as well as income tax. So we're trying to look for those types of programs that we can offer incentives to businesses in our community. We do have an economic development division here in our city that works very hard to bring jobs to our city. So thank you very much.
Yeah, you can look at a couple examples downtown, Xenia Shoe and Leather, One Bistro, on some of the historic tax credits that these small businesses taking advantage of, and to help develop the downtown area and the businesses down there. And you look at Midtown, and that's an area that really needs some focus. Wes mentioned the developments down there. The Xenia Town Square, the developments that are going on there. These are all positives that are going on in the city that need support. The X plan was a plan that was developed a couple years ago by the administration, and we need leaders in council that are willing to stay the course of that plan and make sure that plan comes to fruition, and we work at developing that plan and making sure that we're all headed in the same direction. So, thank you.
Again, bringing businesses into our community. I think with my idea of making a committee for marketing our businesses and working towards our small businesses, I think that would help bring more business to each individual store. I think that planning events, including these businesses, would help to bring more people in, just like with the tournament that I'm bringing to Xenia. All of our ball teams have to go all over to different cities to participate. These tournaments bring a lot of money in. So you start working with your youth and bringing in tournaments, and you start adult leagues we used to have. We could start forming adult leagues. I know Cedarville plays the city. The city makes complete revenue off of their adult softball leagues. People from Xenia go to Cedarville just to play adult softball. We used to do that. Maybe if we get the fields mowed at Westside, we can bring it back.
Billy just took everything right there. Now, I'm a softball player. I go to Beaver Creek to play softball. When I was a kid, we had Lexington Park was one of the greatest parks ever to play softball. We had teams from Sydney, Ohio that come down here and play Tuesday night. I was 6 or 7 back then. We had ballparks, Spring Hill Park. We had all them ballparks. We could do that. We could have at least start with one league night, bring people in from out of the city, the neighboring communities. I'm not going to tell you that I have the answers on how to bring the businesses in, but we have to work as council people together to get these businesses in. If we do not get something for these kids to do, we're going to lose them. We're going to lose them as we've been losing them for years and years. We have got to have something to do. There's so much that we can mirror ourselves with. Like Wilmington, Ohio, they're going through the same type problems. However, they've had a 5-movie theater for all these years. We have got to get on board with doing that. Thank you.
It's pretty simple. You lower taxes and you reduce regulations, and you get the government out of the way of businesses, and entrepreneurs will do the rest. It's really that simple. It's somewhat hard to do, at least for some politicians, but that's what you do, and entrepreneurs, they always take over. Capitalism works. Let it work.
Xenia is one of the most highly taxed places in the state. We're one of the top 50, there's 600 below us. So we're in a catch-22, don't have a lot of money, so if we start cutting taxes, it ends up working against us potentially. However, we could do something as simple as a 1/8% tax reduction. And communities that have done that, I've looked and done the math, they have started coming out ahead because people start coming in. Xenia's not known for being business friendly. So you start changing that. You start going after doing things in which business would like, things that they'd like to be able to get a hold of. And another thing that's very, very important is getting the people that can bring in business here in the administration. If you don't have the people that are successful doing it, it doesn't matter how hardworking they are. You're just not going to have any growth. You have to have the people that know what is around, who can be willing to move, and be able to support that to bring them in. So hopefully that would solve some of the problems.
Thank you all very much. We had some really great questions, and I wish we could had time to ask all of your questions, but we don't. So after we talk about issues, these folks are going to stick around. So please take them your question that we couldn't get to, and you can. We have coffee, conversation, and questions, and cookies. So stick around and ask those questions then. I'd like to give our candidates a huge round of applause because I think is anybody interested in filling out a card for questions for the township trustees? And as we raise your hand, if Dave can give you a card, an index card. Our first Xenia Township trustee candidate will be Scott Miller.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Scott Miller. I'm currently a trustee with Xenia Township. I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself and then go into a little bit about the township. You're looking at a bona fide, born and bred Ohio State Buckeye. I was born on Ohio State campus, lived up there for a couple years until my father finished Ohio State and we moved to Greene County. So I lived in Greene County for an excess of 50 years and moved to Xenia Township 25 years ago. We built a house on the southern part of Xenia Township, and that's where we live today. My wife and I, Gloria, live there. We've got two sons, two adult sons. They are both out of the house at this point. All right. From there, I got into the fire service right out of high school and was a Beaver Creek volunteer firefighter for a period of time and was later hired by the city of Xenia as a full-time firefighter. I was there for 26 years, so I have 29 years in the fire service. Some things, my life and my career has been basically public service. A lot of things that I've gotten involved in beyond the fire department. We created disaster drills for the entire county at one time. Fairborn, Beaver Creek, Spring Valley, Sugar Creek, Xenia. We did drills where we were testing fire departments, EMS, police departments on how to respond to a variety of incidents. And I was involved in that for quite some time. State parks, we did some of the same things for a couple of state parks in the area. They were doing some training with their folks, so we went down and hosted events for a couple of different state parks. It was for the fire departments, law enforcement, game folks in and around the parks, and then the park staff. So we did that for them. I've done county EMA training for a couple of counties outside of Greene County. So we go into those counties and help them understand disaster planning and disaster processes. As anybody in this room is probably well aware, Xenia lived through a major disaster several years back. I was not in the fire service at that point, but was definitely had family members here in town, and so was well aware of it. And then as I got into the fire service, I moved into that. Hazmat, I was on the Dayton Regional Hazmat team as a firefighter. And I am currently on the Dayton Regional Hazmat team board of directors. So, a couple things that I've gotten involved in. I'm also on the Ohio Public Works Commission for Greene County. We try to take projects within Greene County and take them out to get funding for different projects and take them on. All right. I'm also a vice president of our own company. It's Miller Engineering Group. We do projects that involve products and development of products. Now on to Xenia Township. I've been with Xenia Township since 2004. I was elected at that point. We have fire department, road department, we do zoning. That's pretty much the extent. We get involved with a few other things, but those are the main things that we have. We have an exceptional fire department that is well-trained and provides services to Xenia Township as well as Cedars Creek Township. One last thing, that just as what we do, or what I've done, 911 has been in Greene County for some time. I helped facilitate that back when it came in. And my point in bringing that out is getting resources from a variety of other communities. We took 17 different dispatch agencies in Greene County back at that point in time, got them down to 5. So everything I've ever done is try to find the best resources that we have and pull them together, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from our own township, but we'll pull them from other places as well. Appreciate it. Have a good night, and I appreciate your vote on the 7th.
Anybody need a 3x5 card? Are you having trouble? Susan Spradlin.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. First off, I'd like to thank the Tea Party for having this. I feel very honored to be able to be here. This is my very first one that I was able to be at. I wasn't able to be at last night's. We had a county township meeting, which Xenia Township was the host, and I felt like it was my job to be there. So I'm here tonight. I'm very excited to be here. Those of you who don't know me, I have lived in the Xenia area for the past, well, since 1996. I've lived in Greene County all of my life. I was born here. I was born at Green Memorial Hospital, then I ended up becoming a nurse there. I retired from there December the 19th, just last year, after 33.5 years of service. I'm married. My husband and I have 3 sons and 1 beautiful daughter, 7 grandkids, 1 great-grandchild, and 1 on the way that should be here next week. I come from a very in-depth military family. My father was a Navy corpsman. Heard all of his stories about things that happened overseas and the things that he did, which may have ended up sparking my interest to become a paramedic. I was a paramedic for 25 years. I volunteered first with the city of Fairborn, and then I volunteered with Xenia Township. And I also became a volunteer firefighter as well. I am used to dealing with emergencies. Thanks to the Xenia Township doesn't have that many emergencies. We have had a couple of fiscal emergencies that we've been on watch with, but we have been able to work with the auditor and get those things straightened out. My husband, like I said, he used to be Xenia Township's fire chief. He left and went to Iraq, and when he came back, he took a job with the state. One of our sons, Brian, he is an Army helicopter pilot, and our other son, RJ, is a police officer. So we, like I said, I think the world of our veterans. I think that we're very well represented here tonight with our veterans. And my husband and I are so into taking care of our veterans. We have formed an organization called Finally Home Farm. That is a 501c3. It's a nonprofit organization, and we help our first responders and our veterans who are suffering from post-traumatic stress. It's an alternative to sitting on a couch, taking medications. We get them out in the field with the horses, and we do equine therapy to help them get through these mental health issues. As a sitting trustee, I feel that I am appropriate for this job. I do the financial management of the Finally Home Farm. During my office term, I have learned how to look out for different things. I'm still in a learning process. But as a sitting trustee, I carefully review the bills and the spending accounts and the budget. I question any discrepancies or any concerns routinely. I continually look for savings where I possibly can, and I also volunteer time to help out so that we can cut costs as far as not having to hire somebody. Look for opportunities to employ free work. We have a Yes to Youth program that we have utilized. I recommend it to everybody. The only thing we have to provide is the training, and they pay them. The company pays them. We've also had the Sheriff Gene Fisher to give us some volunteers to help out with some projects there as well. The most important consideration that I would like to mention should be what the residents want. I've been asked how I'm going to grow jobs. It's not my job to grow jobs. I'm going to support my farmers. I'm going to support the agricultural community. They are not wanting annexation. They are not wanting their taxes increased. They're just wanting basically to be left alone. So again, I'm Susan Spradlin. Please vote for me on the 7th.
And our last candidate for Township Trustee is Roy Colburn.
Susan is pointing at my chest. Can you get it up here a little bit? Good evening, everybody. My name is Roy Colburn, affectionately called Tank. Can't figure that one out. You know, my dad's name was Roy as well. He was Big Roy, and I was Little Roy until I turned about 10 years old. Anyway, some of my background, I'm actually military as well. I joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school, and did it for what every good Marine joined the Marine Corps for back in that time was, I wanted to kill a commie for mommy, you know. But that didn't translate well to a good career back in the real world. So I transferred actually to the Air Force and learned a vocation. I became a firefighter. I was a volunteer firefighter at home. I've had 40 years of service as a firefighter. I took a job at Wright Patton in 1986 and started there in the fire department and retired from there after 29 years. While I was there, I had the opportunity to move into my current home in Xenia Township, and I started volunteering for Xenia Township. I just retired from Xenia Township as a firefighter 19 years ago, or from 19 years of work last year. So You know, I have a lot of experience in dealing with problem solving. You know, firefighters get that phone call, worst day of your life, and we're expected to come and fix your problems. So that's what I want to bring to the citizens of Xenia Township. I want to make sure that they know that this guy is wanting to solve their problems, not trying to put them off, not trying to delay action on any of their requests. I want to solve the problem and try and make it right for them. Some of my experience is also reviewing FEMA grants. I've done that for the last 5 years. I was actually sitting on the panel. I didn't actually review the grant that took care of Xenia City, but those are the sort of grants that I review. I evaluate those, determine who needs or has the most need, and then we send that on up to FEMA for the final decision. One of the things that I think that we're missing out in the township is not filing for those grants. The state has taken a lot of our funding away. We need to find other ways of getting that money other than taxing our folks. So one of my goals is to try and encourage our leaders, the department leaders, to actually file for some of those grants. I've also served on the Pinecrest Board of Directors. We helped turn that around a little bit in the last 4 years. We're doing quite well now. And I'm also the treasurer for the Xenia Township Fire and Community Association. That association has purchased a gator, an EMS gator, which will help us transport people like in a ferry. You've probably seen them around. And also we're looking at buying computers for the Xenia Township Fire Department. We're the last department in the county that doesn't have computers. So our organization's going to do that. I've seen a lot of problems in my 19 years in the fire department, and I've watched a lot of the trustees meetings. And I tell you, I've seen a lot of conflict. One of the things that I'm trained at is actually as a certified mediator. So I know how to find that solution that satisfies both parties. I don't want to win over somebody. I want to be able to say that we both won. And that way everybody comes out of there a winner. And I think that helps us in serving our people better and working together with each other. So with that, I would like to thank you, and any consideration for a vote for me in November, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Any cards? Any questions? There's one back there. Okay, would the three township trustee candidates please come forward?
Here's another CSU question. What can the township trustees do to prevent Central State's annexation to Xenia?
Well, I think that hearing a lot of the city candidates saying that that was a bad idea, I'm glad, and I hope you win, because we think it's a bad idea as well. And I don't like the way that we're using this balloon annexation, where just because we have this little umbilical cord called the bike path, that we can go out and act like Pac-Man and start chomping up all of our township properties. So I'd say that we expect a vigorous fight from the township, and I don't think that there's a whole lot of people that understand why that is a necessary move for the city.
Being one of the current trustees, we are aggressively on this. We cannot make Central State not want to annex. However, I think that we have tried to work with them in the past. We came to an impasse when we tried to do a JED. Some people got kind of greedy, and we were unable to do what we thought was best for the residents out there. Again, Mr. Colburn is exactly correct. The balloon on a string, we are looking at that, but we also have a top-notch attorney, and we're on it.
we're all three in the same position on that. We do not want it whatsoever. Township, we currently are actively opposing it and will, with the attorney's help, pursuing that. As far as the state goes, the rules that were set down by state legislature have made this very strong for a city to make their case, and a township has very little to fight back with. So we hope to win this out, but time will tell. Our county commissioners will have the opportunity to hear both sides, and it will be their decision. Thank you.
Okay, the second question. If elected as a Xenia Township trustee, what are the one or two top issues facing the township, and what would you like to do about them?
Annexation, annexation, annexation. That's probably one of our key ones. We've got businesses in the township that try to do some things, would be the second item. Would be trying to accommodate those requests. A township our township is very rural. And to keep our township and keep the services that we've got, trying to look at what we can do with businesses and make that work and still keep the rural nature of the township. Hamvention that just happened this past summer, that was a very large project for us as well as the city. And that's one way of bringing business to town and bringing other resources to the businesses that we have. So anything along that line that we can accomplish would be appreciated.
Could you read the question again?
If elected as a Xenia Township trustee, what are the one or two top issues facing the township, and what would you like to do about them?
Okay, I agree, annexation is number one right now. We've already said we're gonna fight that, we're gonna oppose it any way that we can. We've listened to our residents and they do not want this. They're in fear that their taxes are going to go up, that their water rates are going to go up, and that they're gonna have taxation without representation. That's number one. Number two is, just recently we had Killcare property that was zone B3. We had a meeting on that, an open public meeting. Everybody got a chance to speak. Killcare was looking for storage locker units, and they were given by me last year a recommendation to go for a PUD, which is a planned unit development. They didn't do that. They came back again. It was voted down last time. They came back again this year, and they asked for the same thing to be a B3. In the B3, they can do a lot of different things, and it takes away the involvement of the trustees to have a say-so in what is allowed, what is not allowed. And the residents ended up getting a referendum, and it will be on the ballot May 8th.
Obviously, annexation is a hot topic, and I agree with that. But also, on top of that, I believe is making sure that we have the funding to make sure that we're able to provide the services that we've been asked and we're expected to provide. I want us to maybe do some more cooperative stuff with the city and the surrounding townships. Our road department's done a fantastic job in sharing services and sharing people, even back and forth, doing some of their projects. The fire department does a fantastic job as well. They do mutual aid all the time, but I think we can do better. I think that when there's a call at Elmcroft, there's no reason for a city engine or medic to run through all those intersections, passing the schools and lights and siren to get there when we're a half mile away. We should be calling the closest people and then work out who's going to transport afterwards so that we can get the services to the people that need them when they need them. Again, that 911 call, we're expected to be there. You don't care who shows up, whether it's a city or a township paramedic, as long as you get that paramedic on time.
Okay, thank you all very much. I really appreciate your time. Give these folks a big round of applause. Thank you. The voters are electing for two positions, so two of the three.
For the city council, you're electing 2 from the 7, so that's gonna be a tough decision. The early voting has started already. We have this candidates night right after early voting starts. So early voting is now in effect, and you can go down to the Board of Elections and cast your ballot, or you can request an absentee ballot if you like. Please don't request an absentee ballot and then go try to vote on voting day, because you will be told that you've already voted, and it's not a good thing. So if you request an absentee ballot, please fill it out and send it in, and don't go to vote on election day. If you want to know what your ballot is going to look like, you can go to the Board of Elections website, and under voter lookout, you can pull up your name and go all the way over to the right, and it says sample ballot, and click on that, and your ballot comes up on your screen, on your computer screen, just like it does in the voting booth. So it's really a cool thing. If you have any questions about what you're going to look at on your ballot, it's right there. And the Board of Elections has a pretty good website. We really appreciate working with it. Now the issues. The first issue, Mark Ryan is going to present the pros and the cons. Issue 1 is going to be on your ballot, and it's called Marcy's Law.
Thank you. Ohio issue number 1 is called Crime Victim Rights Initiative 2017, and it's also known as Marcy's Law for All. Currently in the United States, the U.S. Constitution and every state constitution has enumerated rights for individuals who are accused of a crime and those who are convicted of a crime. Yet the U.S. Constitution and 15 state constitutions do not extend enumerated rights to victims of crimes. Marcy's Law for All seeks to amend state constitutions that don't offer protections to crime victims, and eventually the U.S. Constitution to give victims of crimes rights equal to those afforded to the accused and the convicted. Marcy's Law was named after Marcy Nicholas, a University of California student who was stalked and killed by her ex-boyfriend in 1983. Dr. Henry Nicholas of Broadcom Corporation, the brother of Marcy Nicholas, is the key backer and proponent of Marcy's Law. When it passed California in November of 2008, Proposition 9, which was called the Victims' Bill of Rights Act of 2008, Marcy's Law became the strongest and most comprehensive constitutional victims' rights law in the United States, and put California in the forefront of the national victims' rights movement. In 2016, Marcy's Law amendments were approved in Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota, and it is now being considered in 9 other states, including Ohio. Issue 1 would repeal and replace Ohio's Amendment Number 2, which voters passed in 1994. Like Amendment 2, Marcy's Law was designed to provide crime victims with constitutional rights. Unlike Amendment 2, Marcy's Law would provide some new rights and a more specific list of rights. The official ballot title is as follows. Issue 1, Proposed Constitutional Amendment, proposed by initiative petition to repeal and replace the existing language in Section 10A of Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Ohio. A majority yes vote is necessary for the amendment to pass. As Carolyn said a minute ago, when you go look at your ballot on the website, you could see the exact wording that you will be dealing with on issue number 1. The proposed amendment would expand the rights of victims under the current Section 10A and require that the rights of victims be protected as vigorously as the rights of the accused. More specifically, for the purpose of ensuring due process, respect, fairness, and justice for crime victims and their families in the criminal and juvenile justice system, the amendment would provide victims with the following: the right to privacy and to be treated with respect, fairness, and dignity, the right to information about the rights and services available to crime victims, the right to notification in a timely manner of all proceedings in the case, the right to be present and heard at all court proceedings, including the right to petition the court to protect the victim's rights, the right to a prompt conclusion of the case, the right to refuse discovery requests made by the accused, except as authorized by Article 1, Section 10 of the Ohio Constitution, the right to reasonable protection from the accused, the right to notice of the release or escape of the accused, and the right to restitution. The proposed amendment would not establish a cause of action for damages or compensation against the state or any political subdivision. If approved, the amendment would be in effect 90 days after the election. So here's the argument for issue number 1. It was filed with the Ohio Ballot Board. The argument stated, a yes vote on issue 1, the Equal Rights for Crime Victims Amendment, commonly known as Marsy's Law, will ensure that the rights of crime victims are protected in Ohio's Constitution. Yes on issue 1 means crime victims will finally have equal rights. Issue 1 places in the state constitution much needed protections for crime victims and their families. Issue 1 benefits all Ohioans by guaranteeing that crime victims will have notification during each step of the legal process. Issue 1 protects all Ohioans by guaranteeing that crime victims and their family members have the right to be present in the courtroom and a voice in the judicial process. Issue 1 empowers all Ohioans by guaranteeing that crime victims and their family members have input into plea bargains, as well as financial restitution from the offender if appropriate. Yes on issue 1 strengthens Ohio's existing laws that have failed to fully protect the rights of crime victims. Issue 1, a yes on issue 1 has no impact on the rights of the defendants. I'm going to read 2 comments. Catherine Lee Harper, Executive Director of the Ohio Crime Victim Justice Center, stated, Marsy's Law will ensure crime victims receive equal protections and equal access to justice. Far too many crime victims have been denied their most basic rights. Marsy's Law corrects this injustice by informing crime victims of their rights, the status of their cases, and to receive notice of hearings that can impact their safety. Attorney General Mike DeWine, co-chair of the support campaign, said, I think this is the natural next extension of victims' rights. It seems the right thing to do, to engrave it in our Constitution. Most prosecutors are doing everything that will be required by Marsy's Law, but it makes these things a matter of right and not discretionary. Here's the arguments against issue 1. As of September 21st, 2017, there was no organized campaign opposing issue 1. However, the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association and the Ohio Defense Attorneys Association, 2 groups who are normally opposed to one another, have united to oppose this issue. State Public Defender Tim Young wrote the official argument against issue 1, which was filed with the Ohio Ballot Board. His argument states, Ohio law affords victims extensive rights. Issue 1, known as Marsy's Law, originated in California. 1 week after a young woman was killed, her mother was confronted by the accused murderer in a store. She didn't know that he had been released on bail. Ohio does not have this problem. Ohio law requires prosecutors to notify victims when a defendant is arrested or eligible for pretrial release. In 1998, Ohio implemented one of the nation's first automated victim notification systems, which offers victims information 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Ohio law requires prosecutors to protect the rights of victims. If a crime victim is not receiving the assistance they are entitled to by law, Ohio should provide additional resources and training toward victim services, not amend our state constitution. Issue 1 does not provide additional resources, and the government remains immune to liability. When a victim isn't notified about a court hearing, a plea bargain, or offenders released, the victim should have recourse against the government, which is not provided under issue 1. The problem in Ohio is not the absence of victims' rights, but the lack of a remedy when the government fails to carry out duties owed the victims. Issue 1 amends Ohio's constitution to give victims the right to refuse to turn over potential evidence and to petition the Court of Appeals. Issue 1 conflicts with essential guarantees in the Bill of Rights, including double jeopardy, confrontation, and speedy trial, rights fundamental to our founders. This amendment will result in increased litigation, increased costs to taxpayers, and will delay cases, only hurting victims. This amendment is wrong for Ohio. And I have 2 comments. John Murphy, Executive Director of the Ohio Prosecuting Attorneys Association, stated, "What we're concerned about mainly is it creates the ability of the victim to intervene in the criminal justice process at any point along the line if they think they aren't getting their proper due. It could be a real mess." And Barry Wolford, Public Policy Director of the Ohio Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, said the amendment would override state law, eliminating judges' abilities to weigh the rights of victims and defendants. He stated, "This is overkill, it's a good cause, but putting it in the Constitution would be a drastic mistake." Finally, the financial disclosures for the campaigns. Marcy's Law for Ohio was registered in support of this initiative on 21 September 2017. They raised $3 million, of which Dr. Nicholas, the brother of the young lady in California, contributed $2.9 million, not from $3 million. No committees were registered to support the initiative. No contributions whatsoever have been made to oppose the issue, and there's no formal group opposing the issue. The source of this data was Ballotpedia.org and the Dayton Daily News. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Before we do the final item on our agenda, we had an agenda malfunction, and I forgot to bring forward our candidates in uncontested races. And at this time, I'd like to invite candidate for mayor, Sarah Mays, if she would come up, please.
Well, good evening. I'm Sarah Mays, and I am running for mayor. And I know this is an uncontested race, but I still wanted to take the opportunity to speak tonight and have a chance for you to get to know me. This is Meet the Candidate night. So normally on Wednesday nights, I host a high school girls Bible study in my home. So instead, we brought Bible study here, and I've got my girls with me. Not all of them, but they need to wave.
Can you all stand up?
Oh, you can stand.
Stand up.
So I'm going to have a little bit of an unconventional speech tonight because I decided that since we brought Bible study here, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're learning and how that applies to the city. So in our Bible study, we've been working on 1 John, and in 1 John, there are 2 overarching themes that I have been focusing on with the girls. And the first is, what is the trajectory of your life? Where are you headed? Now for us, in our study, and I hope that that's pointing to Christ, for the city, I see that as a positive trajectory. How are we moving the city forward? And I want to make sure that we talk about looking forward and where we're headed. So some of the things that have been said tonight, some of it's positive, some of it's negative, but the overarching theme, I want it to be a positive look forward. We have had more housing starts this year than in the last 5 years combined. That's a big deal. We've talked about the hotel. We haven't had a hotel want to come to Xenia in 30 years, and here we are building a new hotel. Our unemployment rate is actually at the lowest that it's ever been. That's a really big deal. If you drive through town right now, everybody's hiring. Everybody, even Aldi's. And I know this is a small example, but they're hiring cashiers starting at $11.50. In Xenia, that's a good salary, starting at $11.50. We've talked about our youth tonight. How are we impacting our youth? We talked about the REACH project with the YMCA. The YMCA has great programs for our youth, and how exciting that they're building somewhere that has 2 gymnasiums. Having my high school girls here tonight, that's a big deal. We can impact our youth in positive ways, and I hope that we continue that forward trajectory. We talked a lot, the second theme, I'll just skip ahead. The second theme that we talk about is our heart response. And for my girls, I talk a lot about our heart response needs to be one of love, and I'll extend that to love and respect. Our trajectory, we're gonna fall off the path sometimes. The city's gonna fall off the path sometimes. We as people, we're gonna make mistakes. But then it comes back to, what's your response? Is your response one of love and respect? How does that apply to the business world? In our business world, how are we respecting our local businesses? Are we shopping there? Are we treating them well? The city does walks in downtown, the business walks, to talk to our businesses and see how we're doing. We have the Economic Development and Advisory Board who's reaching out and trying to promote our small businesses. We can promote these jobs. So are we having that response of love and respect? And then ultimately, as citizens, are we having a response of love and respect toward each other? Are we showing kindness to each other so that this is a city where people want to live, where people want to grow, where people want to have their families? Are we truly making this the city of hospitality? So those are my 2 themes for tonight: positive trajectory and have a response of love and respect. And that can apply both to ourselves personally, to our businesses, and to our city. Thank you.
And the candidate that came this evening for the Board of Education for Xenia is Dr. Robert Delaplane. If you would step forward, please, sir.
Well, as long as I don't drop my cane, I'm not in trouble. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming. And especially thank you to the Xenia Adult Recreation and Service folks and to the Greene County Tea Party for having this very necessary and interesting night. I'm Dr. Robert P. Delaplane, and I'm running for another term on the Xenia Community Schools Board of Education. This would be my 7th term coming up, and I'm proud to serve. For the last 35 years as an obstetrician here in Xenia, I've dedicated myself to ensuring that every newborn baby enters this world safely and with the potential for a great and successful life. During the last 24 years, I have been honored to serve on the Xenia Board of Education. As that board member, I have continued to mold our students so that when they walk across the stage at graduation, they will leave that stage as formidable competitors capable of succeeding in the world of adulthood. Success can be reached by setting the performance bar higher and higher and looking for quality measurements that our community determines. Consider those quality measurements such as a progressive increase in our enrollment over the last 3 years. This speaks to confidence in our system, confidence in the consumer, the student, the parents, and the business. Consider also that this year, in May, we gave out over $6 million in scholarships. Those scholarships are nothing but a mark of success by those businesses, those organizations, and those parents who are contributing scholarship money. Scholarships, $6 million in scholarships averages out, on the average, $15,000 per student. Shortly, our district will have to solve 4 significant issues looming on the horizon, which will have serious implications for us. Number 1, we will be conducting an extensive search for for a new permanent superintendent. Number two, we will need to examine thoroughly our financial capability to balance the dollars that we are given with providing a world-class education while paying for our numerous expensive repairs to Warner and the high school. Number three, we will need to find a solution to the old East End High School, which is deteriorating, subject to vandalism, and not capable of providing a safe education environment for our children, or even safe to be in the building. We will need to update, number four, we need to update our strategic plan with a vision towards academics and facilities that continues to produce a world-class competitive graduate. I would be honored to have your vote on the 7th of November. I pledge to continue our climb to excellence, answer the phone, and provide our children with all the best advantages of using the resources that we are given. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mason, Dr. Delaplane, for coming out this evening. We know you didn't have to, but we appreciate your meeting with the voters.
No problem.
This is the one you've been waiting for, I know. Denny Crouch, president of the Greene County Tea Party, is now going to present the pros and the cons for issue 2.
This is obviously a contentious issue. It's been in the newspapers, on TV, and every place. And what are the facts, what are the truths, and what are the untruths that we're talking about? Hopefully, I can present that as well as I can in telling you what the facts are. There's still going to be questions on your mind. There's no question about that, because it is complex. So let me begin. I'm going to talk about the background. I'm going to talk about the language that you're going to be saying yes or no to, and I'm going to talk about the people that are supporting the pro position or the negative position, and I'm going to be talking about those people, organizations, etc., that are for and against this initiative. Ohio Drug Price Relief Act is what it's known as, and there's many other names. It's Ohio Issue 2 on the ballot. As a way of background, this will be the second time that this will have come up. The Ohio Issue 2 is essentially the same initiative that appeared on California's November 2016 ballot under Proposition 61. Prop 61 was designed to restrict the amount that any state agency could pay for drugs, tying it to the price paid by the Veterans Administration. A difference is that the Prop 61 in California would have exempted Medicaid managed care plan from drug price regulations. However, in Ohio, Issue 2 will not exempt Medicaid. It will be part of it. California rejected the measure 53 to 47%. As of 4 October of this year, the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, primary agency, was responsible for 99.9% of the campaign funds in favor of Issue 2, a total of $6.2 million. The Ohioans against, quote, Ohioans against the deceptive prescription ballot issue, a wholly owned subsidiary of Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, were responsible for 100% of the campaign funds that were opposed to Issue 2, a total of $16.2 million. The ballot title, important, very short. This is an initiative petition. It will revise the Ohio Code, Ohio Revised Code for our laws. 2 paragraphs in it. First paragraph, require the state of Ohio, including its state departments, agencies, and entities, to not pay more for prescription drugs than the price paid by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. That's the primary paragraph there. The second paragraph, establish the individual petitioners responsible for proposing the law have a direct and personal stake in defending the law. Require the state to pay petitioners reasonable attorney fees, and other expenses. Require the petitioners to pay $10,000 to the state if the law is held by court to be unenforceable, and limit petitioners' personal liability to that amount, $10,000, and require the Attorney General to defend the law if challenged in court, which means the taxpayers would pay for any litigation. You vote yes, the law will be adopted. You vote no, it is status quo. The law will not be adopted. Supporters. Who are the supporters? Officials include U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, Vermont Senator, Ohio Senator Cecil Thomas, and 2 Ohio representatives, Bill Patman and Teresa Fedor, the mayor of Cincinnati, and 6 city council members of large cities. Former officials that support it, that support the yes vote, include U.S. Senator Max Cleland, Democrat of Georgia, and former administrator of the Veterans Administration, U.S. Representative Dennis Kucinich, Democrat, District 10, and 3 other former Ohio legislative representatives. The parties that support this include Seneca County and Butler County Democratic parties, also Democrats of Cayuga County and Cleveland Stonewall Democrats. The organizations that support this initiative include 9 organizations that are for it. The AIDS Healthcare Foundation and its subsidiary of Cleveland and Columbus, and 6 other organizations. 1 nurse, 2 dental, 2 physicians, 1 NAACP, and an organization called Our Revolution. Individuals including Michael Weinstein, who is the president of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, Matt Borges, who is the former chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, and Robert Ruff, chair of the Medical Scientific Advisory Board of the Myasthenia Gravis Foundation. What are the arguments for issue 2? There is nothing on the website other than a piece of paper that is not signed. When I say website, I'm talking about the Department of State website, which normally has for and against. They're published. There is not one currently for, and I've talked to the people that are for it, and they're working it to get something published, but right now there is nothing published. But there are a lot on their website, and also Ballotpedia has quite a bit on that, and that's what I'm using for this presentation. Arguments for it. Michael Weinstein, president of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation. While we've seen ample evidence, there is seemingly no limit to the corporate greed of pharmaceutical companies. We also know that Americans are tired of feeling afraid every time they go to the doctor, or it's time to get a prescription filled. Astronomical prescription drug prices hurt everyone, except the drug maker's bottom line. This has got to stop, unquote. Tracy Jones, who is the executive director of the AIDS Healthcare Foundation, he made the statement, Americans continue to express their deep concerns about the exploding costs of health care and prescription drugs. For people with chronic conditions, including HIV, hepatitis, and cancer, who depend on their medications to stay alive, the urgent need to control high drug costs is more pressing than just a campaign slogan or simple policy discussion. Don McTeague, attorney for the initiative sponsors, same organization. The other thing is, of course, it would benefit all taxpayers because the state would be spending less. So there's the indirect benefit to the taxpayers. The state would spend less on prescription drugs, or the state could buy more prescription drugs. It would free up some substantial money that the state could use for other programs. That's what the attorney for the initiative sponsor says. Then there is, for the issue also, is Ohio taxpayers for lower drug prices. They criticize the opposition campaign and contributors to the opposition campaign, stating, in part, the drug industry is one of the nation's biggest and most powerful political money machines. In 2016, the industry made $27.5 million in campaign contributions to Senate and House candidates. In 2016, 3 dozen drug companies chipped in more than $110 million to the campaign to defeat Prop 61 of California, the California version of the Drug Relief Act. Despite being outspent by more than 5 to 1, Proposition 61 lost 53 to 47%. The drug companies don't have right on their side, but they do have money, unquote. That was from the Ohio taxpayers for lower drug prices. Now, who are the opponents that are against issue 2? There are many coalitions and organizations. The opposition campaign listed 76 organizations as coalition partners that oppose issue 2. Types of organizations include, against issue 2, include doctors, nurses, health associations, veterans, pharmacists, employers, Chamber of Commerce, and more. To name a few, the American Academy of Pediatrics of Ohio, the Academy of Medicine of Cincinnati and Cleveland and Northern Ohio, Greater Dayton Area Hospital Association, Ohio Nurses Association, and the Ohio Pharmacy Association. Veterans organizations include AMVETS, Department of Ohio, American Legion of Ohio, the VFW, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of Ohio, the Military Officers Association of America, Ohio Consulate Chapters, the Military Order of the Purple Heart, the Retired Enlisted Association, and more. Also, many businesses and other entities, to include the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, Ohio Alliance for Civil Justice, Ohio Farm Bureau Federation, and the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association, are all opposed to issue 2. I won't name the other 60 organizations due to time constraints. Individuals that are for it. There are 3 former state Medicaid directors that are against it. These include John McCarthy, Barbara Edwards, and Maureen Corcoran. They're all former state Medicaid directors. The other one is Chris Goff, who's the CEO and General Counsel for Employers' Health, excuse me. One party is against it, called the Stonewall Democrats of Central Ohio. Now, what are the arguments against issue 2? And this is posted on the Ohio Department of State website. It is the official website that is posted. It says vote no on issue 2, submitted by Ohioans against the deceptive RX prescription ballot issue committee. Costly, deceptive, and unworkable are the 3 phrases that they use. First, addressing costly. Ohio doctors, nurses, pharmacists, and hospitals oppose the ballot issue because it could actually increase costs for the 7 million Ohioans, nearly 2/3 of our population, who are left out of this legislation, including those with private insurance and those who rely on Medicare and otherwise do not obtain medications through state programs. So next, the military veterans could also pay more for prescription drugs. Next, the 3 Ohio Medicaid directors who served in both Democratic and Republican administrations and a state budget director warned the ballot issue could reduce patient access to medications. Lastly, an unprecedented provision gives ballot sponsors a blank check by allowing them to intervene in any legal challenges and require taxpayers to pay the attorney fees, their attorney fees, win or lose. That's the costly part of the write-up against it. The next is the deception. An Ohio budget director says the claim that the ballot issue would save $400 million annually is, quote, simply false, and based on an assumption that Ohio does not already receive substantial prescription discounts. In fact, Ohio's Medicaid program receives federally mandated and voluntarily negotiated discounts that bring its costs down to levels similar to those of the VA. Offline, my research shows 24% is the VA discount, and the Medicaid discounts for the state are 23.1%. So you can't use 24% to determine $400 million. Ohio Medicaid directors warned the ballot issue could invalidate existing drug discount agreements, potentially increasing the state's prescription costs by tens of millions of dollars annually. Lastly, those that are against it feel it's unworkable. Healthcare experts say requiring Ohio to purchase drugs at the lowest price paid by the VA would be impossible to implement because by law, the VA does not disclose the price, by law. Secondly, next, the ballot issue contains no language guiding implementation and was proposed by a controversial California healthcare CEO without consulting any Ohio officials tasked with implementation, which will lead to bureaucratic infighting, delays, lawsuits, and higher costs for the taxpayers. Their final statement is stand up for Ohio, join doctors, nurses, veterans, business, and labor, vote no on issue 2. There's 2 individual also people that feel no is the answer to the issue 2, that we should vote no. Priscilla Vanderveer, a spokesman for Pharma, said this: the proposal lacks operational guidelines, disregards the state's current drug purchasing and discount practices, and could negatively impact non-state pharmacy programs, including those that serve veterans. The measure would dramatically disrupt the system that serves those who depend on state programs for medicine. Jenny Camper, speaking out on behalf of Pharma, the Ohio Chamber of Commerce, and the Ohio Manufacturers Association, said the proposal was unworkable, offers zero implementation guidance, and would create a long-term quagmire of bureaucratic red tape and litigation that, of course, the taxpayers will pick up. Lastly, because there wasn't any story out there about how can you save $400 million, which is being, by those that are for this, they're saying $400 million annual savings. If you just sign up for that, we'll reduce the cost by $400 million. But there's been no study done on that, except this one right here that's contained on Ballotpedia. So lastly, the proponents of issue 2 have stated they estimate a minimal annual cost of the $400 million. How the proponents arrived at that estimate is not clear. An analysis was accomplished by Greg Browning, president of Capital Partners, a public policy and management strategy focused consultancy in Columbus. From 1991 to 1998, Greg Browning was the director of the Ohio Office of Budget and Management and the senior policy advisor to the governor of Ohio. I'm only going to read the conclusion of his report rather than going through the details. The conclusion: proponents of the Ohio Drug Price Relief Act appear to have created an annual drug cost savings estimate of $400 annually by 1, ignoring the significant discounts Ohio currently receives on prescription drugs, and by 2, using the faulty logic involving the most basic of relevant policy and fiscal realities. They assumed at least a 20% cut to approximately $2 billion, 1.5 Medicaid and $500 million non-Medicaid, in prescription drug expenditures that produces $400 million in savings. Yet, they have made this calculation without taking into consideration the profound fact that these Ohio prescription drug expenditures, which involve 3 million Ohio Medicaid recipients and about 1 million other impacted citizens, already reflect mandated and negotiated discounts that already rival drug prices paid by the U.S. Department of Federal Affairs. In short, he sums up, the proponents claim that passing issue 2 would result in $400 million in annual savings is simply false and without merit, unquote. That completes the briefing here. The primary sources for this briefing are Ballotpedia.org, which is an online encyclopedia of American politics and elections. Their goal is to inform people about politics by providing accurate and objective information about politics at all levels of government They are firmly committed to neutrality. I've been using them for a while, and I find them very, very, they're excellent. Ohio Department of State website is the other one. Vote no on issue 2 is published there, and also the ballot title for the official ballot. And with that, I quit.
Thank you, Denny. This concludes the formal portion of our presentation, and we'll break for coffee and questions. But Denny, did you want to say a few words? I want to thank everybody, but Denny's going to do it.
She can thank everybody she likes. You bet. To see all the folks here is just great. This is put on for you. We came together for you. The candidates came together for you. And we do appreciate you. What a group. What a room to have everybody here on, and I think it's great. And we're going to do this next week too, and next week it'll be in Fairport. But it's wonderful, and I want to thank Carolyn specifically for the fine work she did. I also want to thank for this beautiful facility that they have provided once again this year. Sarah, is she here?
Judy.
Where's Judy? Judy, thank you so much. Appreciate it much. It's a wonderful facility for this, and I thank you all for being here. I hope the candidates are still here. A little bit of food back there, have a cookie and some coffee or whatever you'd like to have, and ask for questions if you have some. Thank you all for attending, and thanks again, Carolyn, and everybody else that had a hand in putting